Hi, today I thought I'd go through a grooming session on Chesney with you. First thing I'm going to do is pick out his feet. I use a skip to pick out their feet into. It saves sweeping up later. They do get used to it quite quickly. So I gently slid my hand down the inside of his leg and gave a little squeeze at the fetlock area to encourage him to lift his foot. And I'm gently using the hoof pick around the frog in the middle of his foot to get rid of all the mud. I'll go on and do his back legs and gently sliding my hand down the inside of his leg. I tend to pick their feet out in the same order each time, and that means they learn which order and do help by picking their feet up a little before you get there. The next thing I'm going to do is use the rubber curry comb. I'll just move his mane out the way a little bit. And I'm starting that in circular motions. I'm using this to remove any loose hair and to help lift any scurf that he's got in his coat. I'm being quite gently over the point of his shoulder there and up onto his withers where there's less flesh covering the bone. I'm going down his leg also quite gently now, just to remove any of the extra sticky mud that he might have on his legs, which I know the dandy brush won't remove when I get to that stage. We have quite sticky clay where I keep the horses, and it can be tricky to remove with a dandy brush, so I use the curry comb. So I'm gently doing little circular motions over his body there and gently under his tummy. Chesney's very tolerant of the rubber curry comb. Basil is a bit more sensitive, so I am more limited in which areas I can use the rubber curry comb with him. I just popped my hand on his hindquarters there just to steady him, make sure he didn't move. And back down his leg again gently. Obviously, with each of the stages I'm going to go through today, I have done both sides of him, but it gets a bit boring watching it again and again. So now I'm going over Chesney with the dandy brush. Nice brisk strokes on his body to flick any extra dust out of him. You might notice I have the rubber curry comb in my left hand. I'm actually using that to brush the dandy brush every now and again and get the loose hair off the top of it, as it tends to accumulate. That's it, and following the growth of the hair, so I'm going gently around the stifle area with the hair and gently with the dandy brush underneath his tummy. He's a very good boy. Being groomed is one of his favourite things, so he will stand for a long time to be groomed. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do today is to comb his mane. Now some people would do the body brush and then comb the mane, but I find if he's got shavings or mud in his mane, he can get it all down his neck, so it's better to do this first and then body brush afterwards. So I'm using the mane comb, as I said, and just gently going through a few hairs at a time. Chesney's mane is actually quite clean. I've got holding my hand on the top, just if there's any that are going to pull a little bit, I just hold it so that it doesn't pull into his crest area. Chesney's mane is quite long at the moment. I think it probably needs a bit of a trim. And his forelock. As you can see, he's quite high, quite a tall horse, and if he lifts his head, he knows I can't reach. Sometimes I think he does it just to be playful. The next stage is to go through with the body brush. As you can see, I've got the metal curry comb in my left hand, which I shall use to clean the body brush as I go along. Just like that. Round. Chesney has got quite a lot of whorls around his neck and chest area, so I have to do lots of swirly motions to go with the hair. So under his tummy, give the curry comb a tap on the ground just to get rid of any dust accumulating in it. And over his hindquarter, carefully round the stifle. Oh, you can see some dust coming off there. There we are. Now the next stage, I'm going to do his face. I thought I'd just show you how big the body brush can look on their faces. As you can see, Chesney doesn't mind, but I like using the little face brush. It's nice and gentle round his eye area. I'm going to give him a quick brush like that and then remove the head collar and pop it round his neck just to make sure he's secure and can't go too far before I give it another brush carefully. He's seen something very exciting, obviously, across in the corner. And under his chin there. Right, we'll pop the head collar back on now. Oh, and he's got his leader open his mouth. That's always been something he's done. It's never grown out of and gets through a lot of lead ropes like that. Now I'm going to go in with the main comb and do his tail. So yeah, just gently touch his bottom there before I touched his tail. And this takes a very long time. Chesney has got a very full tail, so I am not going to show you all of it because it took me a long time to go through his tail. So I gently use the main comb and my fingers to go tease through a little bit at a time, get through any little knots. If I get a big knot, I tend to use my fingers to get that free. But I find that going through a little bit at a time is the best way to prevent pulling too many hairs or breaking too many hairs in their tail. In the past I've found once you've broken lots of hairs in their tail, they don't tend to grow back very well and their tails can get quite thin. As you can see, Chesney's got a fantastic thick tail, which I think just looks beautiful when it's finished. I do use spraying conditioner in their tails to help keep them clean and easier to comb through. Now I'm going to just use a sponge, which is specially for this purpose, to just clean around his dock area. I've got it wet in the tap because it's a nice warm day. I didn't need to warm the water up. Right, I rinse the sponge off now, make sure it's clean, and then I'm getting another sponge to do his eyes, nose and mouth with. So again, I'm getting that wet at the tap. If it was the winter and it wasn't very warm, I would actually use some warm water for doing this. So I'm just gently cleaning his nostrils and rinsing in between. Again, rinsing the sponge before I come back and give his eyes a wipe. Nice and gently around the eye area, just so he doesn't worry that I'm going to damage his eyes in any way. The last thing I'm going to do is put some oil on his feet and hooves. So I start off going around from one to the other in the same order as I usually do, and just oiling the inside of his and the sole of his foot. And once I've done all of the insides of their feet, I go back round and put the oil on the outside, carefully around the coronet area so I don't get oil on his white socks. And I go just getting him to stand up on that far leg so that I can go around the edge. I often do the inside of the opposite leg at the same time. It's much easier to reach as you go along like that. And there we are. Beautiful, shiny Chesney.